Tonight on 12 News, Tropical Storm Claudette slammed much of the Gulf Coast Saturday morning. We'll show you the latest storm damage. Plus, an arrest has been made in a trailer fire that left the sister-in-law of former Mississippi State Representative Ashley Henley dead in the same spot she was murdered last weekend. And folks around the nation and here in Mississippi are honoring Juneteenth. We'll talk about why this day is so important to so many in the Magnolia State. Welcome to 12 News at 6. I'm John Conway. Tropical Storm Claudette hit parts of southern Mississippi early this morning, bringing with it flooding rain, gusty winds, and storm surge. 12 News' Deidre Briscoe shows us how the Pine Belt fared. Deidre?
Things seem to be winding down here in South Mississippi as the people of Hattiesburg seem to have dodged the worst of it. Tropical Storm Claudette was set to hit this area hard. Turns out there's only been reports of downpours and street flooding in Pearl River County, Karnes, and in Brooklyn. And here in the hub city, isolated flooding. Emergency kits, flashlights, first aid kits, and battery packs are the usual things to grab when preparing for a storm. But there are other hazards like standing water, traffic, and other recommendations of steering clear of any overhead hazards.
When the winds start picking up, you want to stay inside. You don't want to run into a chance of limbs falling on you or children. We have a lot of pine trees and oak trees here in Hattiesburg. Oak trees are notorious at falling. They're weak at the roots, and pine trees are notorious at snapping at the tops.
The firefighter also recommends unplugging unneeded appliances.
I would highly recommend unplugging any unnecessary appliances. You really should only need your refrigerator or your freezer and your TV or radio. Other than that, I would just go ahead and unplug it to decrease the electrical load in your house and any possibility of surges.
For storm preparedness, people usually grab sandbags and load them at their front door, but there is a proper way to stack them.
I would stack them in a staggered method, not on top of each other. If you stack them on top of each other, then you'll create a canal, which will allow water to get through there easier. And then as well, if you stack them, they're going to tip over. So I would recommend staggering your sandbags.
Showers and thunderstorms are still in the forecast for Sunday, but the remainder of the storm has moved out of Mississippi and is headed to the east. This is only the beginning of hurricane season. There's still 5 months left of the season, but each time we have to prepare like the next storm could be the one. Reporting in Hattiesburg, Deidre Briscoe, 12 News.
Tropical Storm Claudette caused trouble in other parts of the Gulf Coast as well. Some of the strongest winds lashed Alabama and the Florida Panhandle. Brianna Hollis shows us more from the Alabama Gulf Coast.
A relatively wet drive down 59 to Gulf Shores, and as we hit the beach, blustery winds with gusts up to 60 miles per hour and hitting steady at 30 to 40 miles per hour. After the wind came the rain. It was strong, but mainly fleeting, coming in a few 10 to 20 minute intermittent bursts with light rain in between. Double red flags up on all public beaches with waves reaching 7 to 11 feet and life-threatening rip currents stowing below the surface. Moving away from the beach, some of the side roads saw minor flooding going west off 59. More flooding on Beach Boulevard, overtaking the right lane. Most cars opting to stick in the left, but some not afraid to get wet, as Tropical Storm Claudette seemed to spare coastal Baldwin County of the brunt of its wrath. In Gulf Shores, Brianna Hollis, WKRG News 5.
A woman is behind bars tonight in connection to a trailer fire that claimed the life of the sister-in-law of a former Mississippi State representative. Authorities say Billy Brooks was arrested on an arson charge. Law enforcement say Christina Jones was found dead in the burned-down trailer in December. It was the same place former Mississippi State Representative Ashley Henley was found shot and killed last weekend. The two were sisters-in-law. Law enforcement says that both cases are still under investigation. Juneteenth, historically a day that honors the lives of black people who were slaves in the United States, can now be added to the list of federal holidays alongside Christmas and Thanksgiving. 12 News' Kate Cornell shows us how one restaurant and a City of Jackson councilman observed the holiday.
Eddie's Soul Food is not usually open on Saturdays, but this weekend they had a pretty good reason to make a special exception. Councilman Kenneth Stokes welcomed family members of Emmett Till for lunch in honor of Juneteenth becoming an official holiday. One of Till's cousins, Priscilla Sterling, says that this is monumental.
We're celebrating the fact that slavery ended June 19, 1865, but we also know that there are other key issues like the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. So those should be addressed as well.
Sterling says that this new recognition for Juneteenth is a huge milestone, but there's still a ton of work left to be done. In Jackson, Kate Cornell, 12 News.
A freedom ride for voting rights headed to Birmingham after making a stop in Jackson this morning. 12 News' Kayla Thompson went to the event and tells us why so many feel they must continue this decades-long fight.
We always hear that Mississippi is last, and now we're first.
The Black Voters Matter Freedom Ride for Voting Rights kicked off their tour in Jackson, Mississippi. The same place 60 years ago, nearly 400 Freedom Riders were arrested.
I can't begin to tell you how excited we are to be the starting place for this whole thing, going back to Washington, D.C., celebrating the 60th anniversary of the original Freedom Rides and just what it means.
Dozens of people showed up on Tougaloo College's campus to be a part of the event and say it couldn't have come on a better day than the first time Juneteenth is recognized as a federal holiday.
We got so much to celebrate, and then we got a lot to celebrate with Black Voters Matter, with all of the organizations coming together, with all of the challenges that we're having against voting rights. So this is just an event to just get everybody motivated, get them ready, because we got a lot of work ahead of us.
The event focused on raising awareness on pending legislation they say is rooted in voter suppression.
400 ugly, vicious, disenfranchising pieces of voter legislation, voter suppression legislation is pending in 48 states. And they're telling us that we can't have the For the People Act.
And the legislation they say Congress must pass.
We must have the For the People Act. We must have the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. We must have D.C. statehood.
People say this experience was unforgettable.
And I hope they do it again. I'll be there again.
Original Freedom Riders like Fred Clark were in attendance and encouraged those riding 60 years later. The bus rolls on to Birmingham next, and they'll be in Washington, D.C. on June 26th. In Jackson, Kayla Thompson, 12 News.
Churches on Ferris Street worked together to get the community vaccinated today. Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines were available. This is one of many events Ferris Street clergy and Central Mississippi Health Services put together to ensure the safety of our friends and neighbors. Folks say they were worried about getting vaccinated at first, but now they're glad they got their shot and a Chick-fil-A gift card.
I'm trying to be safe, you know what I'm saying, but still being sorry, you know, people die every day not taking it, so I want to be the ones who do take it and be safe.
Ferris Street will hold another vaccination event in July. Still ahead, the best golfers in the world teed off in San Diego today for the U.S. Open's third round. Sports Zone's Haley Hunter will have the highlights in sports. We'll be right back after this break. You're watching 12 News.